you on is health and safety. And for this time, I would like Jason Stricker to approach the podium. And he is going to, again, just give an update on where we are with cases and just kind of set some clarification and some context to the Fresno Bee article that came out last week in the paper. I felt it was important to ensure that our board is kept up to date with accurate information.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Jason Stricker. I'm the Director of Pupil Services, which includes health services. So what you see here is a graph of positive cases of students and staff from March until December 11th. So total cases for our district, 99 cases. We've had 53 students and 46 employees. The blue bar is active cases. So those would be individuals that are currently in isolation, their 10-day isolation period, because they're walking through their timeline before they can return to the campuses. The green bar would be students or staff that have already tested positive, have finished their isolation and are no longer symptomatic, and they're back in our schools. This is the entire set of data based on 2,078 contact tracings that are completed by our health staff. So every day, a health person for a student or a supervisor for an employee would enter a symptomatic person into our health tracking system. From that entry, a nurse or an LVN or a health aide would call the employee or call the family and would find out more about the trace. So this set of data are our positive cases over the last 9 months. The second
And
graph,
Jason, real quick, the student cases there, that includes students who are in distance learning as well, correct? So
Yes,
they're not just the
absolutely.
students on campus.
So the 53 students are distance learning and in-person students. So for our 12,600 students, we're at about 0.4%. So less than 1% of all of our students have had a positive COVID test. We're around 3.5% for our employees. We've had about 700 contact traces for employees. We have 46 cases, so about 3.5%. Well below the county averages. But for students specifically, and a lot of our concerns about students in our classrooms, 0.4%, less than 1% of students have tested positive for COVID in our classrooms or in distance learning. We know about our distance learning students because attendance is still taking place, and families are calling students in, even if a student is in distance learning. So this is a district data, and
Okay,
go
I
ahead.
just wanted to go back a little second. We were going to do a breakdown. I was kind of asking for that. How many were in class and how many were virtual? So, I know you don't have that here for students.
I don't have the virtual.
Mm-hmm.
I can show you.
Well, the in class is there, yeah.
I can show you the in class. So the next graph,
Got
if
it.
you go to the next bar graph. So this is by site for the district. So if a school is not listed on this graph, it means that they have not had a positive employee or student on their campus since we started collecting data. So for example, Del Rey has had one employee, no students in distance learning or on campus. Sequoia has had one employee and one student test positive for COVID, distance learning or on campus. Obviously our larger sites, WAMS in the high school, numbers much, much bigger. We certainly see that here, but Sanger High School, 10 students and 11 employees for the entire time from March to present, distance learning or on campus. Okay. The bulk of our students, what you'll also find is that notifications to community are not matching the numbers here. So we have not sent 99 notifications to our community because the requirements for notification is, was the student or employee symptomatic within 48 hours of being on our campus? So that's a pretty specific kind of technical piece of the contact trace. So the nurses would speak to the employee, speak to the parent, find out when symptoms started. And if they started on the 8th, was the student or employee on a campus on the 7th or the 6th? So 2 days prior. That is the circumstance that is leading to the notifications. And we've had several notifications. For the last week, we're averaging 2 or 3 notifications a day of a case. To be very clear, we have yet to have a transmitted case happen at school. There have been no transmitted cases of employee to student, student to student, or student to employee, or employee to employee. We have yet to have a case where that has been the situation. Thanksgiving, we did have a bloom, and we did see those family gatherings result in cases for families, but none of that happened and nothing was transmitted on our campuses.
So you have seen a little surge after?
Very much so. We definitely saw a bloom, particularly with employees, more so than students. But everybody's kind of working through those things now, and so to all of your comments about safe holidays, I would reiterate that very strongly, and help us all come back in January healthy and ready on January 11th. So.
Jason, do we know the teachers and students, are we checking on them? How are they doing?
Yes. So very fortunate across the board. There have been no severe hospitalizations, no severe permanent health situations for any of those that we see here. Definitely some scary situations, but everyone has been successfully navigated through their period of isolation. Our health staff are following up regularly with all of the isolations, and teachers would know when an isolation ends. So the health staff tell a principal designee, and the teachers when a student's time ends. For our secondary sites, that is entered into Power School, and it's reflected through the attendance record in Power School. A lot of the secondary kids have been quarantined, where a sibling, for example, would be symptomatic, and so they're isolated, and so the siblings are now in quarantine. And that's requiring kind of a long period of time away from school. So if my brother were symptomatic, he would be isolated for 10 days. Would be isolated for 10 days. My quarantine period wouldn't start until his 10 days is up. So then I'm out for 14 days. So I potentially could be out of school for 24 days. And so to Mr. Lopez's point earlier about what curriculum do I get to participate in during that time, curriculum instruction under Thomas Soto's leadership have put together choice boards for those students. And we've had many teachers, elementary teachers, agree to continue to support students through their isolation and quarantine periods. So what that's created is an opportunity for parents to be very honest with us. And as difficult as it is, navigating those conversations with our health staff, they have been honest and they have been willing to partner with us to help us maintain our safety culture.
In regards to that isolation and missing the school, because you can miss how many days, you said? What did you say right now?
So
Up to
for
20?
isolation, if I have symptoms, I
Yeah.
would miss 10.
Mhm.
If I'm quarantined because someone in my house has symptoms,
Yeah,
I could miss as many as 24.
yeah. And
24 calendar days.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So what I'm asking, Mrs. Jones, is if it's possible to take a look at that and see how our kids are doing when that happens, you know, some kind of report, see how they're,
Doing
Yeah.
in what regards, Mr.
in
Hernandez?
regards to learning, yeah,
So there's
yeah. Because
their
I
grades and such like that? Yeah. I'll
yeah.
assign that to Mr.
I know it's
Lopez.
tough, but I know when Mr. Soto puts his mind to it, he can make it work. Yeah.
But we just felt it was very important that you have regular updates on the number of students and number of employees. We are a community agency. We know the numbers in our community, and of course, people are coming into our community all the time. But this is an accurate reflection as of Friday the 11th of all positive cases in Sanger Unified.
Now, I know you've had this for a while. You know, I would have liked to have seen this as the months went along. I would have
Sure.
loved to have seen this, you know. And I don't want to ask why we didn't, but I just hope this continues, that you continue to give us an update. of those numbers.
He will give a health and update at every board meeting.
Good.
Anything else? Thank you.
Well, wait, is there anything, what did you say earlier? You said there was something that would really bother you. You know, if you saw something in the numbers or you saw certain situations happen, that you would be concerned. And you said, we're not concerned because it's not being transmitted, correct? Nothing's been transmitted from employee to employee or from
Yes.
student to
Right.
student.
Our contact tracing has shown that
Yeah.
there has been no transmission on our campuses.
No transmission on our
Yeah,
campuses.
transmission, that's the word. Thank
And,
you.
and this is, when we first talked about going back to a hybrid with students on campus, I had made the comment that that's probably the safest spot for the students. And you're proving it. There's no transmission there. The transmission is outside of the environment, which means you're doing a good job. We're doing a good job. We have no spread. We have no transfer among students or staff at this point. And that's a big deal.
The
You pro-
teachers and all the classified staff that are working on this, it's a team effort every day, and this is just one example of the payoff. You know, you guys got to see it in the kids when you did the visit and how happy they were to be there, and being able to present these kinds of data just to provide more reassurance that, you know, while the kids are there, they're safe, they're getting the instruction, and all the safety culture is resulting in that kind of an outcome, which we're very proud of. Thank you.
Any other questions?
You have another question. Okay, can you tell, I mean, do we know, we really can't tell if parents are out there, if the children are sick, do we ask them to go get tested? Do we tell them, you know, hey, make sure your child is tested or something if we can find out?
Something that's been very motivating for parents to go ahead and test is if I have a child in my home that's symptomatic and my other 4 children can't go to school because they're in quarantine, if my parent gets me tested and I'm negative, the other kids get to come back. So we've had some instances where as many as 9 brothers or sisters and cousins were in quarantine because of one child in some of our homes. That was very motivating for a caregiver to get that child tested, and then the 9 other children got to go back to school. So we have seen the motivation or the fear of testing kind of decrease over the last few months, which is great for both just accurate numbers like you're seeing here, but it's also great for those students to get out of quarantine and come back to school, which is where they really want to be.
That's good to know, Jason. Good to know.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Happy New Year, everyone.
New Year.
I wanted to give an update on our contact tracing and our COVID cases for the district. The last time I was in front of you was on December 11th. And in that time, is the graph there on the screen? I'm not able to see it. We have a current summary of 209 cases for the district to this point. We've had 115 students, and we've had 94 employees. So from last month, from 30 days ago, our total was 99 on December 11th, and as of today, our total is 209. So if you're looking at the blue, green, and gray graph, you can see that we have 12 open cases of employees at the moment and 17 open cases of students at the moment. If you'll indulge me for a second, this seemed like an appropriate meeting to share kind of a summary of our contact tracing from the fall. From the time we opened to the time we went on break, Mrs. Jones mentioned the 5,600 kids that were coming to school. If you take that number of students by the number of days we were in school, there were 291,200 opportunities for families to decide if their children were healthy to come to school with us. From those decisions, there were 18 instances of students on campus that were positive for COVID. I really want to thank our community for being a part of our safety culture and making those daily decisions to self-screen their children and make a decision about whether they should send their children that day. Our system is working right now. I also really want to thank them for recognizing that if they call and tell us that their children have a symptom, that they're honoring that we have a way to ensure that their education continues during isolation or quarantine. And that system is working. So again, 291,200 opportunities, and our families are helping and partnering with us, and I thank them for that. For employees, from the time we started, there were 70,200 opportunities for an employee to make a decision that morning when they woke up as to whether they had a symptom or had a concern about a COVID-related symptom. There were 23 instances where we had an individual on a campus that was positive for COVID. Very, very low numbers. We've had 0 transmission between staff and staff. We've had 0 transmission between staff and students. We had 1 instance of transmission from student to staff, and we've had 0 transmission of student to student. We've done 2,952 contact traces, 2,106 student contact traces, and 846 staff contact traces. 11% of those traces were positive for staff, and 6% was the positivity rate for students. So when we look at our community that has positivity rates of 15.9%, 16.6%, 17%, our staff positivity rate for our traces has been 11%, and our student positivity rate has been 6%. That kind of gets us up to today.
Okay.
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Stricker, That information you're giving us, we don't have that, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's just the big picture summary. What you have is just the total numbers,
Yes.
our cumulative numbers.
I would really appreciate to have that information.
Put that in a table for you.
Yeah.
Sure. The blue and orange graph what you'll see is for winter break, which is all the way to the right, these were cases of students and staff that had reported positive COVID cases while we were on break. So this column that says winter break, those employees wouldn't fit into a school number because we were on break during that time. But you can see that there were 26 instances of employees that tested positive for COVID during the 3 weeks, and 21 students that tested positive during the break. Our safety culture is working. The contact tracing is working. We have a huge number of employees that are working on contact tracing. Our families are partnering with us, and I'm very confident in keeping this system going. I do want to especially thank 3 of our LVNs that contact traced and committed their entire break. Erica Hernandez, Natalie Valadez, and Letty Herrera. They were basically on call and worked all break to do contact tracing so employees could very quickly get their results and have return dates set. And so parents of students who were communicating with us about what might be going on with their children also got information quickly. So I'm very grateful to the 3 of them for their commitment to tracing even through the holidays.
Thank you very much for that. Can you thank them for us? And also, how did they do that? I mean, how did that, how was the process?
For
during the winter break, how did
so we have an online form that a supervisor would put the employee's information into, or a parent could use the bit.ly. It's a QR code, and they could go to that link and enter the information about their children.
So that's a voluntary thing, right? So we just put that information out there that they could do that?
Yes. And then that immediately was going to me, to the contact tracers, and they were processing those daily through the break.
And that's why you have that information that there was still no transmission.
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
Any questions about any of that?
So we don't know, like, for the students, we don't know what schools they were from or anything like that. You haven't put that in there yet, right?
For the winter break kids, we didn't
Not
put
yet.
them into the students. If they are active cases right now, they're still in quarantine. But because there was no link to the school, it was all community transmission.
Yeah.
That winter break column seemed to be the best way to kind of summarize this 3 weeks, rather than inflating the site numbers
Yeah.
for things that really didn't have much to do with.
Okay, so
with
no
us being
numbers
in
have
session.
changed. No numbers have changed from that last report that you gave us in regards to that.
Not for the sites.
Thank you.
For the green and blue graph does show the increases, but winter break will show everything that happened during that 3 weeks.
I'd like to, I made a comment months ago that how much safer it is on campus, and I think that winter break total is showing that. When you have no transmissions going on campus, but you go on winter break and they're home, and look how many you had. So I think that's showing that how serious the district is taking this and how safe we're making it for their children and for staff. That's a good comparison when you go on winter break and you have a surge.
And this is voluntary, Pete, so maybe a lot of them haven't really told us. This is voluntary.
Yeah.
So the numbers could be even higher during the break,
Yeah,
of course.
that's true, for the break. I appreciate it.
Any questions? Other questions? All right, thank you.
Well, just one. You probably don't have this at all, but how was our attendance? Anybody today? How was it, Anything?
In our attendance in regards to students?
Yeah, students coming back, yeah.
I don't think we have that quite in the number yet. It usually takes the
Yeah, I know.
24 hours to get, so tomorrow I will know what today's attendance
Yeah,
was.
but there wasn't a bunch of principals saying, hey, they didn't come back or anything like that, correct?
Did they come back? Yes.
No, I'm saying there wasn't you didn't get a bunch of
No.
calls telling you, hey, they didn't come back. you know,
No.
so.
In fact, I talked to both Jamie Nino and Carl Kesterke about that today, and it was there a majority of staff out, a majority of kids out, and there was none of that today.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stricker.